Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. And tonight we are reviewing Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 5, titled Truth. Oh, I am Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight is Christopher the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Good. I'm doing better than Mr. Walker did in this episode.
Oh, are you throwing shade at him? Or
no, I'm saying he's going through a rough time.
I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that. All right, also joining us is Vanessa. She's podcasting Rockstar and International Cosplay Queen. How you doing?
Wonderful. Excited to talk about the truth for once.
Truth. Oh, there's a lot of truth going on this episode. It's going to be a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
What's up? This is my favorite Seinfeld episode.
Truth. All right.
Oh, man.
That went down really quick.
I know what you just.
I know. Because it stars a person from Seinfeld. I'm glad I had to spell out my joke for it to not even be
all right
cognizant on the radar.
No. What we're going to do tonight is good. We're going to give our first impression of the show. Then we're going to talk about a little bit. What we talk about, we're going to go jump into spoilers, and then we're going to end the show with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. So let's take a look at the show we're talking about tonight. It is streaming on Disney Plus. This episode aired April 16, 2021. Episode 5. It's titled simply "Truth." Directed by Karli Morgenthau and written by Dalen Musim, one of those two people. Cast includes Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Daniel Brew, Emily Van Camp, Wyatt Russell, Danny Ramirez, Cleve Brannett, Carly, how you doing, Carly? Carl Lumley, Florence Kazuma, Aaron Kellyman, George St. Pierre, and here it is, Julie Louise Dreyfus. Yes. Synopsis goes: Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, Baron Zemo, John Walker, and Karli Morgenthau must deal with the fallout from their actions. This is the setup for the last episode, right? The penultimate episode. And it just kind of slowed down a little bit and gathered up all our characters, reeled it in, and set us up for next week. Let's find out what we thought, shall we? Slattman, you are up first, sir. What was your first impression of episode 5?
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that it was kind of a slow episode because I'm not going to lie, the last couple have been, real fast paced, a lot going on every single episode. It was nice to take a breather, especially because I feel like a lot of the best action movies do this, where it's a lot of nonstop action, and right before the big confrontation, the big climax, things slow down a bit. It lets you breathe. It lets you take it all in. It lets the characters kind of do their thing, grow a little, kind of sit there and go, holy crap, what just happened? Reflect on everything before, the mic drops and something happens that makes them go, all right, one more, let's go.
Yes.
And this is exactly what this episode is. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than the first episode because they're both very slow, because I feel like we've seen so much growth between these characters, especially Sam, and it's really starting to pay off. And we got an amazing Rocky montage, and I love Rocky montages.
We did get a Rocky montage. It's fair to say that it is slow, but it's not without action. We do get an awesome fight at the beginning.
Yeah, it's just like the first episode. Opens up with a great action and then slows down to allow for character development. And sure, right. I think also if we're gonna take the route of comparing the slow episode to the slow episode, I think this one works a little better because we do get Bucky and Sam together. And there's even a moment where Sam has to threaten Bucky because Bucky oversteps some bounds.
Ah, yes, yes. There was a twinkle in his eye, was there not? Oh my God!
A little smirk, a little smile.
Yes. He might have found a button to push, I think.
But yeah, but to summarize, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed taking a moment to really breathe and to really see these characters and see that they are growing and see that they have gone through so much. And another shout out to Wyatt Russell, because he keeps killing it in this role, and I really like. Everybody in this cast is doing a good job, but I really, really like what he's going through, or how he is portraying what the character is going through. And the scene where he has to talk to Lamar's family is heartbreaking in so many different ways, especially his realization that he failed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is powerful. It is powerful. All right, let's find out what Vanessa thought. Vanessa, what was your first impression of episode 5?
This was an emotional roller coaster for me. I'm crying one minute, laughing another minute, back and forth and back and forth. They were messing with my head and my heart the whole time during this episode. And I totally agree with Chris about John Walker's story arc. Like I said last time, this tragedy of Captain America, of John Walker, is just, I'm loving watching it unfold. His statements too. Okay, gonna get into spoilers because I'm so excited about it. But no, I loved it. I loved the time that Sam and Bucky got to spend together. I loved our moment with Zemo. There's so many things, so much happened. This was a slower paced episode, but I don't think it was slow at all because so much happened in it, and so many things were tied up or revealed or brought into the story. And I mean, Karli, the things that are happening and are to Karli, and the things that she's doing are just so incredible, and it's, I don't know how they're going to get everything into an hour in the next final episode. I'm crossing my fingers for a 2-hour episode because that's what I want. But, I'll be happy with what they give me.
Excellent. Yes, it gave you a lot. And saying that we're excited for the final episode is understatement. All right, Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of episode 5? Truth.
I love the episode. I think I think it does a better job of balancing everything than the last episode did. Because you have like pieces of information that are given out, but it feels more natural than other things where it's all about exposition. And I think calling it slow is a disservice to the drama that happens in it, just because we're more focused on that than action scenes. Although I will say there's an action scene that parallels the action scene from Civil War. And it's 100 times better, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, and I think that's the one thing I'm constantly blown away by is there's action scenes in this series that are better than some of the MCU cinematic versions or cinematic action scenes. And then also we just get more information between these characters. We talk about growth. We see how these characters have grown just within. They've already grown a little bit from the events that have happened in the movies, but just in this series, we've seen like them grow tremendously to where there's, acceptance about a lot of different things, and even dealing with the John Walker stuff. It's really interesting. There's a really wonderful scene with him where he has his little monologue that, that works really well. So, to me, this wasn't slow. To me, this is more intriguing because I think sometimes I can get bored with just too much action. And in this, because it's so ingrained in these characters, and then seeing them finally starting to transition to where their point is in their lives, when they finally make the realization, okay, I need to take this path. And everybody takes their own path, whether it's good or bad. And I think this is a very integral thing that shows the paths that they'll be taking within the last episode and beyond the last episode. So yeah, I love this so much. I mean, yeah, it's a very powerful episode. You know, we get back with what's his name? Isaiah
Bradley.
Washington. Is that his name?
Bradley.
Bradley Washington. Bradley
No.
Isaiah.
Isaiah
What?
Bradley.
My brain's not working this weekend. But yeah, I mean, when we get back to him, really powerful scene. And then we got a lot of things that sort of set up, you know, how characters are going to be possibly in the next episode and beyond. So yeah, I really love this episode. I think this really hits it out of the park with going into all those elements that have been a progressive theme throughout, whether it's the racial inequality, and also just being able to grow beyond the issues of like, you know, what kind of person am I supposed to be, you know, and dealing with the issues from the past, and also just moving forward. How can I be a better person because of, or how can I be a worse person like John Walker? So, anyway, yeah, I love this episode.
Yeah, I love this episode as well. And I really enjoyed the opening battle between John Walker and Bucky and Sam, of course, is fantastic, and it does mirror, like you said, it's very much like the fight between Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man in Civil War, very much so. And it even has more emotional resonance with, at least within the context of the show. It's really interesting, and I've grown to enjoy the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Bucky and Sam, much more than I thought I would, or more than I have. You know, I've always liked them, but now I'm like, you know, they're building these two up to lead the MCU, right? I mean, they can step into those shoes now and lead, and especially Sam. I think they've set Sam up in a wonderful way. The conversation that you were talking about with him and Isaiah Bradley is very pivotal to that. You know, the whole thing about, you know, America's not ready for a black Captain America, you know, or the world, I think he says, right? And I think that means a lot right now, and a lot to Sam. And you see Sam realize that, right? I mean, it all comes, he never says it, but you see him realize it. And that's great storytelling and great writing. And this show is knocking it out of the park this episode. I mean, we even get Batroc. Come on. That's great. If you're a Marvel zombie, you know what all that means. And then what can I say? Every little step was really, truly wonderful. Like the montage you were talking about on the boat was great. There's realizations that, you know, really mean something. They don't seem big, but they actually kind of are, at least in the context of the character. I mean, like, there's a moment when Bucky says, you know, I didn't realize, you know, I'm right-handed. I didn't realize, you know, I forgot about the arm, right? And it's just a great moment. There's a little nugget that informs our character so much, and almost every character gets something like that. And it, you know, and for Marvel Zombies, it sets up a whole lot of things behind the scenes very subtly, you know, taking Zemo back to the raft. There's all kinds of things that are setting things up that we're going to dive into here very shortly. But so I'll stop here before I start blouting all that out. I just say that this was not the penultimate episode I was expecting. I was expecting, you know, this ending on a, you know, this crazy cliffhanger, right? This, oh my God, what are we going to do? But no, it's much more intimate and personal, and in context, very powerful. I think that it's very, I didn't expect this show to circle back around to be so character driven. I mean, it always has been, but not in the respect of this episode. And I appreciate that and respect it. And I'm happy for it. I really. So let's just get this out of the way. We've been talking for weeks. Spoilers from here on. We've been talking for weeks about this. Who's going to be the special person who's going to show up in a cameo role in a character that has not yet been revealed as a Marvel Cinematic Universe version of the character? And we got that today. The guesses were wild and wacky and all over the place, but
And what we got was so interesting.
it was so much different and so unexpected. Julie Dreyfus. It shows up, from Seinfeld. Gosh, you really went over my head with that.
And Arrested Development.
That's true.
That's true. New Life of Old Christine and Veep. Veep.
Yeah, and I didn't watch any of those.
You haven't seen Arrested Development?
I haven't watched Seinfeld. Come on, get out of here.
Oh,
what?
God.
Oh my
I
gosh!
know. It's just like all I know is
We're dying.
never mind. Doesn't matter. But she's Contessa Valerie, blah 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 blah, who is a character that was originally introduced in Shield comic that was in Strange Tales back in the day, and that character was actually had romantic interest with Nick Fury, so it'll be interesting they pick that up, but would later become Madam Hydra. So it's going to be
briefly as Madam Hydra. That's the thing that people keep
true.
falling
It's
into.
true.
They keep pointing out, oh, she's going to become Madam Hydra, and that's such a small part of it. I guess the biggest part, and we need to talk. Well, we think it's going to lead to is that there's also in the comics where she ends up being a Skrull.
Yep. You stole my thunder. You stole my thunder.
Yeah. That could lead to Secret Invasion. So
Yeah.
I think that's more possible. But everybody thinking, oh, she's Madam Hydra, I think is kind of reaching.
Another interesting thing that I read is that apparently she wasn't actually supposed to make her debut in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She was supposed to make her debut in Black Widow.
Yep.
But Black Widow keeps getting pushed back. So do you think that maybe she has anything to do with the program that Natasha and her sister went through? If she does end up going down the Madam Hydra route. I mean, the Skrull one is much more interesting, but
but also, I mean, they do that a lot in the comics, but we've seen that already. So it's the question is, how many more times are they going to have somebody be a Skrull, right?
Well, they're going to have Secret Invasion, so we're going to get a lot of it.
But also,
but between then and now, like, at what point is it not? Is everybody going to be Skrulls?
But she could also lead us into possibly what we talked about previously about, was it Thunderbolts?
Thunderbolts.
Because if they put all those, let's say they capture John Walker after the next episode and they throw him in that little floating prison with Zemo. Maybe Agatha Harkness might be thrown in there at some point.
who let's just talk about. He went willingly. He has a plan.
Oh, of course. When does Zemo not? Yeah.
But can you
imagine? Did he really have a choice, though?
But
he knew better. He knew better.
But if they do their own sort of Suicide Squad-ish group of people made up of all these villains and stuff, that can make for a very interesting group.
Speaking of Sharon Carter. What the hell? What is she doing?
I don't know what
power broker.
Well, I don't think I think that would be too easy to call her the power broker. But
at first,
but she's
now I know not.
She seems to be playing both sides.
I wonder if she's working with Nick Fury.
No way.
Well, there are many theories out there, right? Some is that she's she's getting in there to break it all down, right? Other one is she's actually the power broker. Other one, she's working for the power broker. And we're going to find out who that is. It's all. And another one is that she's a Skrull. It's all over the place.
They're all Skrulls.
Well, at this point, Nick Fury's kind of gone rogue, and he's not a part of any organization or anything, right? So it would make sense if she's kind of with Nick Fury, who's in this morally gray doing his own thing with the Skrulls right now. So
maybe. I don't know.
That's my theory.
So
that's
much
what I'm
to
sticking
do
with.
In the last episode.
Will we find out? That's a good question. Are we going to find out what's up?
No, that's a Captain Marvel 2 thing, I think.
And I think I heard you say, Captain Marvel 2 thing. I think you're right. That Contessa Valerie, somebody.
Valentina.
Allegra de Fontaine, right? Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Long name. That she might be the power broker.
Oh, that's what I thought initially, but now it's not sounding like that.
I don't think she is. I think that'd be kind of weird
Seems like she's going to be bigger than that, right?
She also knows that he took the serum, right? So,
She knows everything.
Well, she knows he doesn't have the shield
as
either,
well.
so she's got to have some insight coming from somewhere.
She knows how to rock that purple stripe in her hair.
Yeah.
She was fun. Yeah, she was fun.
I usually, well, not a fan, but I liked her in this. Let's put it that way.
How dare you?
I know. I'm a weirdo. What was I gonna say?
Multi-Emmy winner.
I know. You got to watch Veep. She's so good.
I've never claimed to have good taste, did I? All right. So
I can't argue with that. I'm just joking.
I know.
People claim that to me sometimes.
I think what really got the best service this episode is the relationship between Sam and Bucky. The whole thing, the latter half of it, once Bucky shows up and helps out with the boat, and then at the house when they're training. Although the sequences feel like they're out of order, but that's a different story. I love that so much. These guys, that little section, I was like maybe 10, 15 minutes. That's why I wanted to watch the show, right?
Well, what Chris was saying about the calm before the storm, you really feel that in those moments too. They're finally getting a leg up. The two of them were working together. They had their talks. He set Bucky straight on what he needs to do.
They finally shared their feelings.
They shared their feelings with each other. It was really, really nice to see that relationship, to get that kind of buddy cop relationship between the two of them and give us kind of a reprieve from everything going on while everything is still going on in the background. While you see them on the boat chuckling, having fun, and then you cut to John Walker talking to Lamar's parents and you're like crying the whole time.
Yes, even
although at the same time you're like, man, you're lying to these people.
God, I feel for him.
Just different version of the truth, right?
But you know what? I think the one interesting thing that I came away with thinking about, especially this episode, I mean, it's so good. It's so awesome that both, Bucky and Sam, their psychotherapy was 100 and a million times better than what that woman did, where they brought out the best in each of them and they both had advice that helped each other. But if you think about it, when you think about the trilogy of characters here, we have Bucky, Sam, and John. And they all have this one specific thing, this element that makes them, I guess, the hero that they are or they want to be. I mean, and that all ties into the real Captain America.
Steve Rogers, right?
Steve Rogers as well. But you had Sam, he doesn't feel worthy of the power. He feels like it's Steve's, and how can he sort of like take on something that's someone else's? You have Bucky who has this power, but it's not what he focuses on, and I think we have that whole thing about like, hey, why didn't you use your powerful arm? It's like, I don't think about it because I'm right-handed. And then you have John Walker who's solely wanting to hang on to that power, that shield. He's so willing to hold on the shield. He's willing to break it, to where if you think about back in Endgame when Steve basically almost had his arm broken, but he just wrapped the thing around his arm to make the shield part of his arm, to where he utilizes it as part of himself, as opposed to John Walker just looking at that shield as being the main reason why he's Captain America, as opposed to who you are inside. So you have all these three different people, and they're dealing with their own issues and coming to that specific level of cognizance with like, who am I and why what makes me, the superhero that I want to be. And I think that's what's so great about Bucky, because Bucky comes, not only does Sam sort of help Bucky, like, you need to go and like tell these people, you're avenging. You're not, trying to get, you're not actually going to the right people. And at the same way, Bucky gets the Wakandans to get him like what it's going to be his new suit and things that's probably going to have that some form of the shield or stuff on it. it's going to be his own, to where he can feel like that'll make him want to use that shield, as part of himself. It'll make it his own.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why we have that end credit sequence where John Walker's like doing his Iron Man thing. It's like, well, if I can't keep the shield, I'm going to make my own and utilize everything around me. So
you got to think too, that shield is going to do some damage, because that ain't made out of vibranium.
Well, no, vibranium is up here. Steel is down here.
Yeah, steel is going to cut right through somebody's neck. It's not going to bounce off their head. That's
also going to break
weapon.
if he goes boom into the vibranium shield. It's going to break.
Yeah, it's going to break against the vibranium. I'm saying that's a lot more brutal of a weapon than it's like everything about him has become so much more brutal, and I just feel for him so much, because what he was telling them at his trial, his sentencing, basically, you did this to me. I followed your mandates. I did everything you wanted me to do. I am the person you created, and this is what you're going to do to me. So then I am Captain America.
And it's really interesting to see him, who went through all this military training and was created to be this person, versus Bucky, who went through, albeit very different circumstances, but a very similar mindset of, you will execute the mission, you will do it however it matters, and to see Bucky versus Bucky's way of dealing with that versus John's, it's really really interesting.
Well, I guess John would be at a point where he needs to be deprogrammed now, I guess, in order to deal with that stuff. But that,
in a way,
doesn't look like that's what's going to happen.
No, he's embracing it too much.
Do you think? Wait. Do you think he's going to show up in the? So I looked it up. I still don't know that much, but the U.S. agent.
I think he'll become U.S. agent. Yeah, he'll take on his own name.
Oh man, when he put those medals on that shield, my heart broke, and I was like, dang.
Yeah, I mean, there's so John Walker's Captain America, John Walker, and is a very interesting character, because he's not, he's doing everything he feels is absolutely right, and it's presented in a way that we can understand why he's doing it right, and maybe some of us even could sympathize with why he's doing it right. And there's probably a lot of soldiers out there that will relate to that trial quite a bit, and or at least his reaction to it, right? His feelings on it, not necessarily the circumstances of the trial, but just his position, right? His emotion of it's what I mean there, because it's a very it's him, right? I mean, that scene where he's speaking in there is basically him, right? And he walked out, and when he walked out, he's basically severing, of course the tie was already severed, but he's deciding to sever it as well, and walk out of the trial, and he's very much going to end up in the Thunderbolts. Let's just say it.
Well, but the other sad part of that is Isaiah Bradley wasn't able to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He got put in prison for going to save,
doing the
troops,
exact same
doing
thing
the exact
same
same
Captain America did.
That Captain
Steve.
America did, and Captain America everybody applauded him. Mm-hmm. When Isaiah Bradley did it, he was sent to prison for 30 years. But yet we also have John Walker, who basically executes a guy in the middle of a town square, and he could just walk out of the court. They took away his benefits, but they didn't really do anything, And so I think that also is the sad, we also see that sort of racial inequality with all these things as well, that this white guy who killed someone in the middle of everything, but this black guy who saved people, he's put in prison for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So it's also, we have that aspect of it, which is I think that's the sad, but really intriguing thing about this series, about how it ties into racial stuff. I mean, I know that we did the previous podcast with Lovecraft Country, where they brought in like real life events and how they tie that into Bradley's stuff. I think that
Mhm.
that adds an extra level of stuff to it. Like, oh, they gave us shots and told us it was tetanus, but it was a super serum.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They even talked
Sounds
about
familiar.
the Tuskegee Airmen,
Mhm.
that got all, that went and fought for our country, but when they came back, they weren't considered the same heroes as the white guys who went. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think
I loved him having that conversation with Sam too,
Yep,
and
yep.
watching Sam process that information and realizing like all the horrible things that I haven't experienced personally that I've been told are true. Here is someone telling me they have experimented on me. They erased me completely. They erased me, and in the same hand, telling him no self-respecting black man would hold up that shield. And so knowing, the things that Isaiah is saying are right, but also the things that are saying are coming from a skewed perspective of being hurt his entire life and disrespected, and Sam wanting to know how to mend those things and be a bridge but over that gap, between people that are hurting and people that need representation and need someone to show them that Captain America, or that a black man, or that someone who represents more of what people look like these days, in the States, what people around the world look like. We have a lot of diversity. So to represent that diversity, in his mind, I just really loved that whole, like you were saying, it wasn't over exposition, but his acting and his reactions and just the small little things he was doing really said so much. How stupid was I to think we were going to get to see what was in that box at the end of the episode?
Oh, I know.
I was like,
Come
what?
on.
Like an idiot. Like,
well,
yeah,
I
okay.
think that's
Yeah.
the cliffhanger part that Doc was
Yeah.
talking about. We sort of did have a cliffhanger because we know
Yeah.
some stuff is
Yeah,
about to go
right.
down,
No.
and I think all of us were like, "Oh, we want to see him in the
I
suit."
know.
Which also, I think also the great part of that is, he tells him like nobody really accept a black Captain America, but like the people that are helping him become the black Captain America are the Wakandans who build him this really amazing suit made by as a people of the global majority, as I guess that people say now instead of persons of color, that they're making that for him so that he can feel, okay, this is made by my people. And so so that's I think for me that I'm just most excited to see what his new duds look like,
I know.
because if you see some of the stuff in the comics and stuff, but I'm
He
sure they'll
looks
probably
sick.
well, I'm sure
Mhm.
they'll probably tie in some of the Wakanda technology, so I'm sure there'll be some purple
Yeah.
flames or jets coming out of it, hopefully.
Absorbing
The absorption because he
yeah.
doesn't have the super serum.
Yeah,
So
true.
Yeah. So he's
Um,
gonna, oh my God, I can't
But
wait.
another
But I will say, I think that fight again. Let me get to back to that fight at the very beginning. The way Falcon uses his wings,
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's what made the fight so much fun to watch, because he's like using one wing to bitch slap him. He's like
He
he's
was
doing.
very good with them.
I mean,
Very
it's
like a
like
part of his body.
well, and it's like almost like turning into like Snake, the way the wings work, but. Because you just think the Falcon uses the wings to fly, but he utilizes them so many different ways as a almost like an extremity from his body, and I think that's what I love about it. And also, who has his wings now? Torres.
Right.
Yes, that's important. That's important. He gives up the wing. It's important that Sam gives up the wings, and it's important that he gives them to Torres because
Is Torres going to show up with wings
I
in
hope
episode 5?
I
Real
hope so.
one.
if not, it'll definitely happen
Or
like
episode 6,
in
I guess.
another movie,
Yeah. Or in
Or-
the post credits or something.
Yeah. But to go back to what we were talking about with like Sam's acceptance of becoming Captain America, basically, like being like okay with it internally. I think another powerful moment was when Bucky wakes up and sees his little cousins or his little nephews like playing with it and realizing that it doesn't matter what color you are, people still look up to the shield, still see what it represents, and that's so much more important than, and I hope that they kind of hinted, I feel like that their view on Captain America and the shield and everything kind of helped influence Sam as well.
Mm-hmm. Like it's still a symbol of hope, and
Mhm.
it can be a symbol of hope when it's wielded by the correct person.
Although, did you notice that when Sam is practicing and you have that whole montage of practicing and stuff, the Rocky montage, as Chris says, did you notice there's a one scene where he's running and they leave a spot open on his left for Steve? So Steve is there in spirit, you know.
Oh, I did
with
not
them.
notice that.
Yeah, watch it, because it's, I mean, and it's like, you don't normally frame people with a space unless there's a reasoning behind it. So if you look at it, when he's that one part where he's running toward the screen, you see a whole spot. So all you could hear is like, on your left.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, means a lot. All right, well, we better wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still listening, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening to our review of the show. And we hope you enjoy our past reviews of not only the show, but The Mandalorian and WandaVision and future episodes. I think we're covering Bad Batch next.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for that.
And then Loki's
I'm
on the
sort of
horizon as
excited for it.
well. Of
But
course,
What?
you're excited.
What?
I think that having a little kid in it makes me feel like it's like when you bring a little kid in a sitcom for no reason. That's the only thing I don't like, but I'm still excited. But I think that I don't want it to be too kiddie.
Holy Grogu. All right, so let's,
Unless it's Grogu.
but if you want to get more involved, one way you could do is help us out by hitting the subscribe button or sharing with a friend. That helps a lot. You can hit the like button, dislike button, smash that bell so you can be reminded, and leave us some comments. Tell us what you think. Are we going to see Torres as the Falcon?
Smash it with your wing.
Smash it with that wing. We also want to thank our patrons over at Patreon who, without their support, we wouldn't be able to do not only Heroes and Droids, but H&R, Decades of Horror, and the Gruesome Magazine podcast. So thank you all so very, very much. Slatman, you are up first, sir. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Score is a 5.
Yeah!
I loved this episode. I think it's I loved it. I think that they did such a good job with tying in everything that's happened in the last 4 or 5 episodes. They've done a really good job of tying a lot of loose ends together before we go into that big climactic showdown that we're all expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've done such a good job of weaving in so many important things to really make us think and to really make us, the audience, accept Sam as Captain America, as well as make sure that Sam feels like he can be Captain America as well, because that's just as important, I think, as the character realizing that he can become Captain America. They have to do such a good job of selling us that no, he is worthy, and they've done an amazing job throughout the entire series, and I love what they've done, and I just kudos to everyone involved, and I love it. It's great. This episode was awesome, and there's so many little nuggets, like we've talked about a lot, with like there's so many cool places that they can take the MCU after this series, and I'm so excited. My favorite scene is actually, it's probably the courthouse scene with
wow, nice.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that one hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that really solidifies John Walker as a character, like as Captain America. Like that is like, if you want to summarize him in 2 minutes or less, that is it.
That scene, yeah.
That scene, him being told you were not worthy, and him going, or you were being stripped of the title of Captain America, and him going, I have done nothing wrong. I have done everything you have asked. I have dedicated my life to you. and just it's honestly heartbreaking, but it makes for like I can't decide if he's actually the villain or if Karli's the villain, or like who's more of the villain of this, because they're so strong, both of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting. I like that. That's a good
Mhm.
choice. Vanessa, you're up next. What is your final thoughts? Your score and favorite scene?
Yeah, I agree completely. This episode was amazing, amazing. Like I said, emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, and really, tying up some loose ends, but preparing us for whatever is going to happen in New York now that they're all there.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
this confluence of people that are all there now. Um, this show has just been so surprisingly good. I really, after the first episode, we were all kind of like anxious to see what was going to come next, and everything has just been so amazing since then. And one of the things I really love about this series is that it has the ability to get messages across without being heavy-handed about it, without feeling like leaning to one side or the other, or they're giving honest messages and honest histories, and just sharing that information, and then also showing how people today are dealing with those things, how they're putting that information into practice. Sam, for example, putting the information that he has into practice from all these different sources, and now is going to come out and be this beacon of hope. I'm just loving it so much. So yeah, I'm definitely giving this one a 5 as well. If I give the last one a 5, I have to give this one a
Nice.
5.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm Sharon Carter. I'm leaning towards Sharon Carter being the villain here. I'm surprised. If she's working with Nick, okay, but like also, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? She's so secretive. And favorite scene. So yeah, it's extraordinarily difficult to pick a favorite scene because this episode is all over the place with the tones of scenes that it has, and so many are so good. So I kind of have to pick two. One I mentioned earlier, and it's in that mid-credit scene when you see John Walker affixing those medals of honor to his shield. Like, that is so freaking impactful, because at one point he was an American hero. He was awarded those for being an American hero, and he's going to show you with his shield that he is an American hero. It was so heavy, that mid-credit scene. But I think one of my favorite moments came early on during that first fight, when Bucky has the shield and he throws it down next to Sam, kind of like, enough fooling around. This is yours. Do something with it. And it being covered in blood, and it being there next to Sam and his broken wings. And there was so much in that fight and in that moment and everything that was going on. And I really felt like that. And the sound of that vibranium too is just so, when you hear that shield hit something or hit the ground, it just makes this recognizable sound. So that being right next to Sam and knowing, like, you threw this mantle off once, you can't do it again.
Absolutely good choice. Christopher, your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene?
Well, I mean, I think once again, I think Marvel's really hitting out of the park with these new series that continue the MCU universe. I mean, I guess MCU has universe in the title, but anyway, regardless, it's double the universe. But I think the main thing is, like, they're really doing a great job with showing growth of these characters. There's a character arc to all this that makes a lot of sense, to where it ties into, like from pupa to butterfly type situation, to borrow a line from Silence of the Lambs. Because I mean, if you think about, look at Bucky, the very, the opening of the series, we see him sleeping on the floor. By the end of it, he's sleeping on the couch now. He's actually, and then what he does at the very end, involving Zemo, his old self would have shot him point blank.
Even Zemo said that to him. You
Yeah.
were conditioned or trained to kill. You are a killer.
Yeah, and he's moved beyond that. He's finally gotten to the point of dealing with his demons, and he's moving past them. You know, I think they're that great moment between Sam and Bucky where he's like, you know, don't worry about what Steve thinks anymore. You know, you got to worry about yourself. You know, and the same goes for Sam. You know, he just needs to stop worrying about him feeling worthy and just become worthy. You know, he was so scared of even holding the shield, you know, because if you watch it when they're first throwing it around, you know, Bucky just grabs it like it's an apple. And he's like, he's still not sure. And so you just got to get used to it, you know, and you have to prepare yourself for it. So, and then John Walker, you know, he's almost like the anti-Iron Man by the end of it, you know, where he's got to fashion his own little thing to sort of help his you know, help his way out, his path out to go whatever path he's going, you know. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I love how this is turning out. I think it is kind of interesting how there's a lot of other plot lines they kind of got rid of because of the coronavirus and all that, how that affected things, which, because I'm assuming that there's little things here and there. There's even like when they go to that statue with, was it Sokovia or whatever? Sokovia. And then there's like all these things that there's probably people that have died of this virus that's happening, you know, that we don't even know about because they took that whole plot line out. But yeah, I think the way everything's turning out, it makes me excited for that last episode, especially just to see Sam show up in his new outfit, kicking ass, and finally becoming, you know, the Captain America that Steve will, you know, pass the baton to him. So yeah, this gets a 5 out of 5 for me. As for favorite scene, there's a lot of different things that stand out. I think I probably would have gone with the fight thing, but Vanessa sort of picked parts of that. But I will say the conversation between Sam and Bradley, I think,
yes, definitely
is a powerful scene that, you know, my biggest complaint about some of the episodes in the past has been exposition, but this is the right way to do exposition. That puts heart and emotions. It breaks. I mean, you just to know. I mean, think about it. Like, Steve found a way to be with his love by the end of Endgame. Bradley never had that opportunity, and he's had to suffer for it all this time, and you know, and dealt with a whole lot more pain as well. So I think that scene is a very well written scene. I think Vanessa pointed out, just looking at Sam's face, him just sort of comprehending all this stuff that's being thrown at him, and him dealing with his own demons of having to take on this shield and take on this name, and him sort of understanding, like, you know, well, I need to prove this guy wrong, and I need to do what, you know, he wasn't allowed to do, you know, just to put whatever he went through right to some degree. So yeah, I think that's one of the standout scenes, and I think that's one of the great things about this series. It, you know, that again, that I keep pointing out, I thought this was going to be some silly action series, Bucky and, well, like a bunch of like buddy cop comedy type stuff, and it has that element to it, but it's still, there's more to it, and underlying racial theme is just makes it so powerful and very, very timely with everything we're going through right now. You know, that's still there and still hurts. So, but yeah, that'll probably be my favorite scene, is that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a very important scene because it's a pivotal scene in Sam's arc. I mean, that scene informs him so much, his character, and you know, you can see it, like Vanessa said, you see it in his face. It almost transforms him in a very deep emotional way, and it's great writing, great show. So obviously, I love the show. I'll keep it quick. I think this is the show I wanted. I didn't know. it's pure Bucky and Sam together. It's them growing and forming them into the characters we're going to see in the movies and the next phase, if you will. And they're better for it. And so I believe at this point, and I am excited. I'm excited. This is great. It is, the action's kept to a minimal, but the show does not suffer for that. The emotional beats are as high as the action is in this and other episodes. So what a great moment. So 5 for me as well. And I could pick a lot of scenes. I could pick every scene you guys picked and had on my list as well. I could even pick, Julia
Louis-Dreyfus.
I could pick that scene, but I am going to go, because I'm talking about Sam and Bucky so much. I love the whole Sam and Bucky rebuild the boat thing. That for a lot of reasons that Sam looks back to people to help him. He that's kind of that's a big step for him at this point, right? To let others help him, and Bucky is able to let people in, which at the beginning of this season definitely wasn't in that position. Especially Sam, so all that I'm taking the whole thing from the boat, to the realization that they can't sell the boat. So, it has the great moments where Bucky realizes that the hand thing, and they train together, and they have that's literally the what I wanted out of these two characters, and I didn't realize how big I was smiling during this, because it isn't, you think it'd be the beginning, right? That fight scene, and that fight scene is great. But really that's the part that really hit you. And I loved it.
I loved seeing Bucky kind of being like his old youthful self too, like knowing how hot he is and that all women want him, and he's like, hey.
Well, don't flirt with my sister.
Yeah, well, also you get a nice call back to Sam stealing one of Captain America's lines, like, "can do this all day," when his nephews are chasing him around the house.
That's so cute.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we use that a lot. Steve Rogers did. Mm-hmm. So it's great to see Sam do it. All right, well, there you go. That's our long-ass review of this show. Longer than the episode itself, but I hope you appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. I hope you maybe got something out of our discussion or see something differently. That would be awesome. We look forward to hearing from you. And we are all tired, as Christopher yawned. But anyway, so... but it's late. No, it's sorry, I'm picking on you. But we'll be back for next week of the final episode. It's going to be very exciting. We hope you join us for that as well. Slattman, Christopher, Vanessa, thank you for joining me tonight. This was a wonderful discussion.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, can't wait to talk about what happens next week.
I can't wait to talk for 90 minutes next week.
Oh my gosh, you aren't kidding.
I have a feeling we're gonna have so much to talk about.
We might have to do an extra episode on the following week. All right.
Shocking.
It's not like we've ever done that before. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.